It is hotter than hell today, and I should know, I've been there. Hello, welcome back, or welcome if you're new to my channel. I am going to be doing my July wrap-up today. So I read both physical world books, more physical world books than I do audio, but I think I'm going to do physical world today, and then do an audiobook wrap-up in another video, otherwise they get too long and it's kind of what I feel like doing. So I've got a stack of books here. I also have a couple of books that I'm going to be talking about more in depth in sort of a separate video on a particular genre that I've been teasing, and that is horror films or horror documentaries or horror podcasts in horror books, which is one of my favorite things. So you can probably guess the two books I'm talking about. So actually, I read a third book that also is along this trope. It's called Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle, and it's somewhere on a shelf over there. But I already did a 2-book review on that one. So the other 2 books I read in that sort of genre are Silver Nitrate by Silvia Moreno Garcia and Paul Tremblay's Horror Movie. Now, spoiler, I loved both of these. I gave them both 4 stars. And I think that's actually probably a tiny bit controversial because I've seen some reviewers that really haven't liked them. I've loved them. And they're both about films that are essentially like cursed films, found footage. And this one particularly, Silver Nitrate, has a load of like kind of horror trivia and the occult in it, which I loved. But I want to go more in depth with both of these in that particular video, so I don't necessarily want to say too much about them. I just think that they were both fantastic horror reads. If you like that sort of genre or that kind of idea in your horror around horror films and also around the folklore, this one has the script for the actual horror film that they made, that the found footage was from. So I love that element. So if you like all that, I think you'll like these two. But like I said, I'm going to be doing an in-depth video on this particular trope in horror books, so stay tuned for that. So I don't want to talk too much about these now, but 4-star reads, both of them. Loved. Then the next book I've got here is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I read this one, I think, right at the beginning of the month, and I loved it. I loved it so much. It's a 4-star read for me, you know, like 4.5. It's a thriller. So it's about, I'm trying to remember what the girl's name is. I can never remember the names of the particular characters. Carly. That's it. So you've got the main character, Carly. She is trying to figure out what happened to, I think it was her aunt, back in 1982. And the last place she was seen was at this Sundown Motel. And in present day, 35 years later, Carly goes to this hotel trying to unravel the mystery, and she, oh dear, she starts working there. She kind of, the hotel is sort of a bit creepy, a bit spooky, as kind of those rest stop motels are, you know, kind of where people go to do illicit things they shouldn't be doing. But this one is a lot creepier than most. So this is a thriller, little bit of a horror, supernatural elements in it. I loved the main character. She did some investigating, so it kind of gave me Good Girls Guide to Murder sort of vibes, where she kind of goes in and she investigates. She tries to unravel what happened to Viv in the 80s. And I loved this. I really loved it. I thought it was atmospheric. I thought it was kind of spooky enough. It's not crazy spooky. I loved the story. I loved how it unraveled, and I really loved this. And I was like, I need to read more of Simone St. James. And then I started seeing loads of reviews on her other books, and people were being really negative about them. So now I'm a bit scared, because everybody was saying that they love this book, but the other ones aren't as great. So I will read some of her other books. I think Murder Road is the one that I'm kind of most looking forward to reading after this. But suffice it to say, I just think that this whole small town, creepy motel setting, everything about it, I really loved. So if you kind of like those things, I think you'll love that one as well. Then this book over here. Okay, where do I even start with this? This is Black Light by Elizabeth Hand. If you've ever read any Elizabeth Hand before, which I have, and I love her writing, it's very trippy. It's slightly strange. I often hear people describe books as a fever dream, and this one really is. It's beautifully written, the descriptions, and like I am, despite the fact that I love reading, and writing and like the written word. I'm also a very, very visual person. And when I read, I see books, like I see scenes, I see them like films. And my favorite books are generally those ones that I go, oh yeah, that make a great film. That make a great film. And this will make a great film. Just the way, so I should probably say what the story's about. So we're in the USA, in upstate, I think upstate New York. And you follow this character, this girl. She is you kind of starts off the first scene. So she lives in this town with her family. Everybody in this town is in the arts, so they're all actors, producers, directors. It's all focused around there. The parents, the kids, a lot of them are kind of has-been, as they describe it, but they're all sort of immersed and enmeshed into the movie art stage kind of scene. And the very first chapter of this book starts off with a scene in the 60s where she goes to this party in New York with her parents. It's very weird. It's a bit like, if you imagine Andy Warhol's Factory in the 60s, it's a bit like that. And you've got this like weird movie director called Alex Kearns, which again, he's probably, I would say, he's a mix between Andy Warhol and Kenneth Anger. And he creates these kind of weird films. And she has this like crazy experience at this party as a very young girl. And then we kind of switch to the present day where she's a teen, I think she's 17, and it's her and her friends in this little town, and it's kind of all they've known, and they've grown up in this town. And the descriptions of it are so cool. The descriptions of like the parents and like the crazy actress and, you know, the producer and all of that, really, really cool. The whole setting and the vibe of it, it's kind of a bit Twin Peaks-ish. And I don't really want to say too much more than that, because it is kind of really, you fall down this rabbit hole. There's a supernatural element in it. There's a lot of like Greek gods and Greek mythology in it. Sort of weird shit starts happening to her. And you know, Alex Kearns, this director, is kind of involved in it. And you go back to his house for this crazy party that he's throwing. And anyway, yeah, shit gets weird. But I loved it. I love her writing. And she's actually, one of my favorite books of all time is The Haunting of Hill House. Or The Haunting of Hill House, and she's written a new book that's just come out, which is kind of based on Hill House. So again, I'm doing a separate video on that and kind of the whole haunted house, Hill House trope as well. But I just love Elizabeth Hand's writing, and I would give this a 4 stars as well. I mean, it's been a good reading month. It really has. Then, actually, see, I have a physical copy of this, but I also listened to the audiobook. But anyway, we'll do it in both, because Lisa Jewell, none of this is true. I am going to now read the physical copy because I actually listened to the audio of this, which is fantastic. It's like they've got a cast, so it's not just one person reading. They really kind of act the book out, and there's a podcast element of this book, so that lends itself really well to kind of audio, because you get these like the podcast bit of it. So what this book is about, I should say. So you've got a podcaster, her name is Alex as well. She has this podcast where she talks to extraordinary women. And then the other character, Josie, she is, you get the impression she's not happy in her life. She's stuck in a dead-end marriage. She had her kid. She got married really young. She had her kids really young, and she's kind of not satisfied where her life is. And it's both of their 45th birthdays, and they go to this restaurant, and Josie, who's not happy in her life, she's there with her husband, and it's all very like, well. And then she sees Alex across the way, and Alex is there with her husband, but loads of her friends, and they're having a party, and the champagne is flowing and that. And then Alex goes to the bathroom, and Josie kind of follows her, and she sort of says, oh, I'm your birthday twin. You know, it's my birthday as well. And it turns out that they were born in the same hospital. Their kids kind of went to the same. So Josie's kids went to the same primary school that Alex's kids now go to, because Josie's kids are much older. And what Josie kind of proposes to Alex is, oh, I know you do this podcast. Do one on me. And at first Alex was like, why? But then she gets intrigued, and the story goes from there. It's phenomenal. I absolutely love this. And I'll probably talk about it more in my audio section as well. But like, this, just for thrillers, it's like a 5-star thriller to me. And I am, like, now I've got loads of Lisa Jewell, because there's loads on the library audio app, queued up, because just... I just hope her other books are as good as this is, because I just thought that was fantastic. Speaking of utterly fantastic thrillers and housewives, the next one. So this is Ashley Winstead, and actually I have 2 Ashley Winstead books, and I have a third purchased somewhere in a Waterstones bag, and I'll do a whole Ashley Winstead video as well, so I'm going to do these 2 quite quick. They are both thrillers. This one, I would say, so this one, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, is about a group of friends who are going back to their reunion at the university. Sorry, it really is hotter than hell today. Whew. If you see Lucifer pop up anywhere, I just realized I'm very shiny. Anyway, moving on. Excuse the shininess. So they go back to their high school reunion. And you find out that at university there was 7 of them. Only 6 of them are at the reunion because 1 was killed. And one of the group was accused of her murder, her boyfriend at the time. Some people think he did it, some people don't. And basically this then, you get like a dual perspective of the past and the present and how the story unravels. And it's very, very good. 4-star read. This one, The Last Housewife. Woo! Okay. I mean, I loved it. But there is some content warning on this one. I mean, the other one, there isn't really much content warning. This one, I mean, there is literally content warning in the front of the book. I'm pretty sure I saw it somewhere. So it's here. It's got suicide, rape, physical violence, sexual violence, trauma, self-harm, misogyny, gender, essentialism, and drug use. Yeah, it's fantastic. It is. If you can handle, like, you know, sexual references, sort of messed up events, it's fantastic. I did not see the twist coming in this. Again, this is another thriller. And you've got your protagonist. Now, she is... I also think this is about female rage, which I love. But Shay, who is the main character, again, it starts off, she seems to have this like perfect life with her husband, and they're wealthy, and she's married this guy. And then she's listening to her favorite crime podcast, and it's actually this guy who she used to go to school with. He was like her best friend when they were little, and he's got this true crime podcast now. And on one of the episodes, he talks about her friend from university has committed suicide, but they're not 100%. Well, the police have ruled it a suicide, but he's just like, I've got the police reports here, I don't think this is suicide. And he's investigating that, and she hears this, and then she goes and she investigates this as well. And like I said, I'm going to do a separate video, because I think when I talk about this, it might get a bit spoilery, so I'll mark those sections. Also, like I said, there's content warning in this, so I'll warn you before I start the video. But suffice it to say, this was extraordinarily good. Oh, this is like 4.5-star, almost 5-star thriller again for me. I'll basically read anything Ashley Winstead writes now, thriller-wise. I think she's done some romance, which I'm not that into, but the thriller-wise. And I've got her 3rd book. I've literally just bought it, so I'm crazy about these. Love them. But like I said, you've got to be able to handle a bit in that one. Then the next one, speaking of horror and beautiful writing, Eric LaRocha's Everything the Darkness Eats. I have so been wanting to read some of Eric's work, and this is actually, again, that he has a lot of short story kind of compilations out, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of that. So this is a standalone, like, novella, I would say, and I loved it. So the main premise of this one is you've got this small town in Connecticut, and these people are going missing. These elderly people are all going missing. And then you have the cop who's kind of like investigating. And you have this, so he's got a boyfriend. And you figure out that this town, not friendly to the gays, no. So there's kind of that plot again about really homophobic small town, and his partner gets attacked, and his boss basically says to him, well, you shouldn't be holding hands in public, you know, keep it yourselves, boys. So you've got that, and then you've got this kind of crazy wizard character, and what I love about it is he's called Crowley. And to me, that was like Aleister Crowley, as well as Crowley or Crowley in the Good Omens series. And you've got, I think his name is Nothing. Is it? No, Nothing is the one. oh God, I'm trying to remember what the other main character's name is, but you've kind of got these character names that I just kept thinking were referencing back to other like horror novels, which I really loved. But then you've got another character who he strikes up, he's got a very traumatic past. His wife is killed. He's dealing with a lot of grief. And he makes friends with this woman, and then she goes missing as well. And then he's trying to figure out what happens to her. Again, it's very trippy. If you've read any Eric LaRocca, you'll probably know that. The writing is beautiful, very descriptive. But again, this is another one that's a bit of a fever dream of a novel. I wasn't overly happy about the ending. It was a bit like, oh, okay. But I still loved it, and I would definitely read more. It's very lyrical. It made me feel things. I think the homophobia, the way that was described, it just, there are some very visceral scenes. I'd say there's trigger warnings again for sexual assault, lots of bloody kind of harming scenes, like I said, a lot of homophobia, and he gets attacked, and that's very, very hard to read, and it's there on the page, so trigger warnings for that. But if you can handle it, his writing is stunning, it's beautiful. So again, 4-star read for me. And then this one, again, I read this very beginning of the month, so I'm trying to remember what the characters are called, but this is the final act of Juliet Willoughby. Some women can't be painted out of history. And what I love about this is it follows one of my other kind of obsessions that I have. I love art. I love anything within the arts. And I do like books that kind of revolve around the art world because I think it's interesting and there's a lot of shady characters in the art world. So this is another thriller, whodunit type of thing, about you've got a male and a female lead character. They are like best friends, and she is a art authenticator, and she wrote a book. They used to date when they were at university, and you kind of get the backstory. And she is obsessed with this particular painting that Juliet Willoughby, the artist, painted, and it's supposed to be the only painting she ever did. It was supposed to have been lost when she and her painter boyfriend were killed in Paris in a fire in their studio. And she's kind of obsessed with this. She's writing sort of her dissertation on it at university. So you have the kind of the backstory in the past. You get Juliet's story of her in Paris, I think it's 60s, 50s or 60s. And the painting and what her life was like, and get her whole backstory. And then you get the present story, which is actually them, the two main characters as adults. And he's now married to someone else. She was married to someone else. So they're no longer together romantically. They're still friends. And there is an art sale happening in Dubai. He's now an art dealer, and all of these strands are connected, which sounded like a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on. I would say after having read all of those, this is probably more 3-star read. And it's almost a little bit unfair because it's not bad and I actually enjoyed it, but there were some bits where I was just like, I'll get on with it. And there are a lot of strands to sort of follow within the story, which I liked. I really liked it, but I don't like, I maybe wanted it to be paced a little bit more. There were some things that I thought dragged a little bit in this one, but it was really, if you like the art world, I love that. That's maybe I would say 3.75. That's my rating on that. But you like the art world, again, it's someone dies, and you have all, like I said, all these different strands. There's no real horror. It's not like seat of your pants thriller, not like the others. Like I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? I need to know. But I still enjoyable. And like I said, if you enjoy kind of the art world aspect like I do, you might enjoy that one. And that is me done for the minute. Like I said, I'm going to be doing some more in-depth videos on certain books and certain topics. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you've read any of those books and what you thought, or any of those authors. Let me know. And if there are any recommendations, please let me know. And I hope you stay cool. I'm going to go find a fan or stick my head in the fridge. So have a wonderful day. I will speak to you all very soon, and I will be doing my August TBR soon and an audiobook wrap-up. So I'll see you all soon. Vampire kisses. Bye.